all of our webinars, all of our webinar series to ensure that if people are unable to attend, they can watch back at any time. So a warm welcome to all of those who are watching this recording. To gain the most from today's webinar, can I ask the audience to mute their microphones and turn their cameras off? For the best user experience, you might want to choose speaker view in the top right-hand corner of your screen. It's fantastic to have so many of you with us today. From what I can see, we've got a good mix of businesses, partners, and Business Growth Hub colleagues. And I'm confident that in the next hour, we'll be able to provide you an insight into the wide range of support that's available to businesses across Greater Manchester. We're going to hear from a panel of business specialists in the area of sales. And I'm sure that you'll take something away from today's discussion that you can implement within your own business, and that will create a positive impact. But before we meet our panel, let me first just set the scene around our resilience campaign, talk a little bit about the support that's on offer, not only from the Business Growth Hub, but from the wider business support landscape. Here for Business is Greater Manchester's recognised business resilience campaign to provide reassurance and targeted support for businesses in need. The campaign is very much focused on giving businesses in Greater Manchester the best possible start to 2025, and it has been developed to support businesses with their key concerns and specific pain points, such as managing costs, sales, which we're going to talk about today, managing and understanding finance, business planning, and employment. Along with our local authority and business support partners across Greater Manchester, including the business representative organisations, Business Growth Hub partners, and the wider business support provider network, we will be delivering a series of webinars and events and web resources to cover all that you need to know about the fundamentals of doing business in 2025. The details of further webinars will be shared at the end of the session. And as I say, I hope you'll take away some helpful information, and I'd encourage you to raise awareness of the events and resources that are available within your own networks. Through today's webinar, you can drop comments and questions into the chat as we go along. My colleagues Steph and Haley will be managing today's webinar in the background. And at the end of the session, we will have a chance to ask our panel audience questions. So who are Greater Manchester Business Growth Hub? Well, we are Greater Manchester's business support organisation, and we exist to improve lives and communities across our city region by unlocking the potential of businesses and driving growth in the economy. And we're able to do this through our UK Shared Prosperity funding. The Business Growth Hub provides a wide range of support. We refer to our services as thematic pillars of support. And our focus is around sales and increasing performance in existing and new markets, funding, finding the right financial support for your business and accessing finance and financial planning, development of workforce and leadership skills provision alongside social impact, sustainability and the decarbonisation agenda, cost efficiency within the business to drive the green economy, and of course, innovation, positive operational change, development of new products, systems, and ways of working. And of course, not to forget our Enterprising You offer, where we provide support to early stage and startup businesses. We should be showing a slide which also shows our sector-specific support in the key areas of advanced manufacturing, health innovation, green technology, digital creative and technology, foundational economy, and the social economy. I can see that slide up now, and alongside our local place-based teams, all of this support helps to drive productivity, supports the creation and safeguarding of jobs, and creates inclusive growth across the city region. And of course, all of our support is fully funded and at no cost to business. But let's not forget the wider business support landscape. Within that landscape, there's a wealth of help for businesses. We work very hard at the Growth Hub to partner, to collaborate with other providers of support. And that helps ensure that the customer journey is as fluid and supportive as possible. And I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank all of our partner organizations for their contribution to this campaign. Now, businesses have had a wide range of challenges to navigate in recent years, whether the COVID pandemic, the changes that it brought to ways of working practices, employment law, natural disaster. Over recent weeks, we've seen flooding across Greater Manchester. So there's never been a better time to raise awareness to the help that exists for businesses. And of course, some sectors of our economy have prospered. Greater Manchester leads the way in many areas of the national economy. We have amazing assets, we have superb business confidence, and as highlighted in our own most recent situation report and our survey of businesses, confidence remains high. But of course, businesses are still struggling, and today's webinar provides us a great opportunity to touch on the key area of increasing sales and your customer base. Now, I'm not an expert, so to assist in our exploration today, I'm very fortunate and delighted to have with me a range of colleagues who are specialists in their field. And we're going to find out a little bit about each of them, what they're doing to drive productivity and economic growth in their daily activities, and also to discuss some examples of how they've worked with businesses to create positive impact. As I mentioned, we will have the chance to take audience questions. There is no such thing as a silly question, so please do drop your questions into the chat and we can ensure that we get those asked at the end of the session. So that's the introduction and the context to why we're here today, but let's meet our panel. With me today, I have Isabelle Farquhar. Isabelle is a business advisor within the growth team at the Greater Manchester Business Growth Hub. We have Malcolm Gresty. Malcolm is an international trade advisor with the Department of Business and Trade. Ishan Dutta. Ishan is a global scale-up specialist here at the Greater Manchester Business Growth Hub. We have Ivan Segrt. Ivan is the lead pricing partner at EY. And finally, we have Francesco Feraco. Francesco is an international trade and customs advisor at the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. So, good morning. Welcome to our panel. Can I ask you all to turn your cameras and your microphones on? Let's meet our panel. Let's go to Isabelle first. Isabelle, can I ask you just to give us a brief update on your role, your responsibilities, and what you're doing to help businesses on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, good morning, everyone. So I'm Isabelle Farquhar. I'm one of the business growth advisors in the business in the growth team. In our team, we tend to focus on the foundation economy. So for those who don't know, this is construction, health and social care, hospitality, sports. We also do early years education. I mentioned health and social care, retail, wholesale. Services, professional services. So our businesses grow. People come to us with wanting to develop their vision for the future. So we tend to work mostly on strategy, so helping businesses with a 3-year strategy, having a strong plan to deliver that. We work on sales and marketing. We try to address all the challenges that people tend to face as a business that is hindering growth, and then we tap into other teams for when the need arises from that. Yes, so we're here to help. My background is export sales and marketing. I've been working with businesses for over 20 years, and I've also run my own business for about 7 years. So all of this helps really with the knowledge and expertise that we all have in the team.
Thank you, Isabelle. That's superb. Ishan, maybe I can come to you next. Same question to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and responsibilities?
Yes, Colin, thank you. And good morning, everybody. Great to be here. So I work as an international growth advisor or global scale up advisor at the Growth Hub. So my job is to work with all types of companies to help them scale, to help them either start selling overseas or to sell more, to scale up their international sales. Um, we can deal with any size of company. We have more small and medium companies, I would say, but we can deal with all sizes. And the way we work typically is we'll sit down with you, we'll relook at what is your company, what do you stand for? Because when you go abroad, you have to again think very carefully how you're positioning yourself, how you're going to present yourself to a new market, as if you're starting from scratch. So, what is a company? What are your key products? How are you going to communicate them? And then we start working on a go-to-market plan, strategy, and start creating budgets and plans. So that's a typical there's the typical things that I do. We also give workshops. And as I say, any company, as long as you have some kind of product with traction, you don't have to be selling abroad today, but any company is looking at selling abroad, please do contact us.
Thanks, Ishan. Great to have you here today. I'm going to come to Ivan next. Ivan, same question to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Segrt, and I lead what we call pricing and monetization expertise within EY in the UK. So what does that mean? So we help businesses optimize their pricing strategy and actually make better pricing decisions in more general terms. So what does that mean? Mostly four things. Is defining strategy, how you're competing, maybe differently in different segments and geographies. Then price setting, so designing a rate card and the discounting policies. Number three, enabling sales teams to deliver. And number four, creating some kind of governance within the business to make sure that price is managed properly. So we work with businesses large and small. So I worked a lot with corporates whose turnover is in billions, but also worked with startups and companies whose revenue is zero to define their commercial offering. And anywhere in between. Before joining consulting, I spent some time in industry. As we'd like to say, I had a real job. So I spent some time at AB InBev, beer company, and also dunnhumby company behind Tesco's Club Card. Before moving to the world of consulting, where I've been for the last 15 years. So pricing is a topic that I can talk about for hours. So I'm happy to answer any questions in the end, and hopefully throughout the presentation you'll get a flavor of how important it is and how you can use it to improve your business.
That's superb. Thanks so much. Great to have you with us today. Francesco, I'm going to come to you next.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Francesco Feraco. I'm an international trade and custom advisor at the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. We are the UK largest chamber. We're proud to represent a vibrant network of over 4,200 members from a wide range of sectors and business sizes. At the International Trade Department, the department I'm working with, our mission is to support businesses in their international journey with a range of services that open doors to new opportunities, both national-wide and overseas. Particularly my role at the International Trade Department, I will say, is very technical, which I'm a customs agent, qualified customs agent, which allow me to clear import and export shipments, but at the same time allow me to provide advice to business in this area, stay up to date with new changes, and help them to stay compliant.
Super. Thanks so much. Great to have you with us, Francesco. And last but not least, our final panelist, Malcolm, I'm going to come to you.
Thank you, Colin. As Colin said, I'm Malcolm Gresty. I'm an international trade advisor, or ITA. There's a lot of acronyms, so if I keep using acronyms, I apologise for that. I work for the Department for Business and Trade, or DBT. Some of you may remember us as the Department for International Trade and also UK Trade and Investment. So we've gone through a few brands over the last 10 years or so. So we are the department for economic growth, supporting businesses to help them invest, grow and export, creating jobs and opportunities right across the country. So my specific job, I cover Greater Manchester area, but I also go into Lancashire as well as part of my patch. I work across all sectors. I'm a generalist ITA, International Trade Advisor, so I cover any business sector, any market globally. And of course, export includes both products and services, which is sometimes forgotten. So generally, I deal with businesses that are at least 500,000 turnover. But I do have particular interests in the financial professional business services area. I'm looking into the space sector. So if there's any companies out there dealing in space, I'd love to talk to you. And I've also had a lot of experience in North America as well. So I'm looking into that in detail as well. So I am a civil servant, so try not to hold that against me. However, I come from a commercial background as well. I've worked in private sector engineering, in business development consultancy, and I've got over 20 years of international trade support experience. Plus, I ran my own manufacturing business selling construction and bulk materials handling products across the globe, primarily North America, Europe, Middle East, and Australia. So asked about a sort of typical day. I don't think there ever is a typical day in kind of business support, but one of my main roles is kind of promoting the benefits of doing business internationally. Exporting goods and services is a great way to increase your sales by going way beyond the domestic market. However, it is incredibly challenging, and if your business isn't strong in the domestic market, export is not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve your problems. If nobody wants your product or service at the right price, at the right quality, in the right time frame, then I'm afraid you're not going to be successful. And I'm the first person to tell a company you're just not ready for exporting. It's not just me that says exporting is great. The Institute of Export and International Trade did a survey of over 3,000 businesses a couple of years ago, and out of all of those businesses, 80% of them said that exporting increased the company revenue. It resulted in increased headcount. It fueled innovation and helped stay ahead of the competition in domestic markets. It made their business stronger. It spread the risk of being in multiple markets, eased pressure on domestic trade. And most responded that exporting is critical for the future of the business. So my day job really is I've got 100 businesses on my books, in my portfolio. I draw on the resources that I have available right across the Department for Business and Trade. Some clients are incredibly demanding, 2 or 3 times a week sometimes, and then others disappear for months on end. So my engagement with a company really depends, if they're brand new to exporting, I might take them through business planning, looking at market selection, doing market research for them. Or they may be old hands, they've been exporting for years and years, but they just want access to a new market, and I can help them with that. And there are 8 areas of support, which I think I'm going to touch on a little bit later on. So that's me in a nutshell, a big nutshell, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Malcolm. And it's really important to emphasize that the Department of Business and Trade, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Growth Hub are all working in collaboration to ensure that journey through, I suppose, seeking to find and sell in new markets is as simple as possible. And I know we're going to touch on that. It's important also just to reference all of that expertise that our panel have just talked about is available to you. So please, if there is a need, whether it be the Chamber, whether it be EY, whether it be the Growth Hub, or indeed DBT, then please do reach out to us. But let's get into the conversation. We're here to talk a little bit about how we grow sales within a business. So Isabelle, I'm going to come to you first, if you don't mind. How important is a customer-centric approach to increasing sales? And Should a business be focused on their existing clientele, or should they be looking to seek new clients?
Okay, that's a good question, Colin. Probably 3 points to address here as part of that. So how important is obviously it's about building trust, isn't it? It's about loyalty, driving long-term value in the business as well, and getting repeat business and referrals. So yeah, it should be prioritized in the business. If you look after your customers well, and you generate retention and therefore repeat sales. What does that look like, I suppose, for B2B businesses? Or businesses selling to other businesses. Customer-centric approach can be achieved through a good account management. So if you choose your top 10 accounts, for example, you want to make sure that you move from being seen as a supplier who is chosen on price and is compared to the competition to becoming a partner. So you want to move up the ladder, become some kind of partner, supplier who is maybe co-developing solutions with a client, who's putting a lot of efforts and patience in embedding itself in the business. That's the best way to look at it. And that relationship becomes stronger, and you're no longer being looked at as a supplier, a traditional supplier. You're not judged on the business, I suppose. An example of that, I'm working with a client at the moment who delivers heavy goods vehicle training, and he's not embedded in the staff of his top clients. He's there so often because he's been asked to come back, and he looks after everyone on the shop floor. He even gives advice to the warehouse managers on the best way to stack their goods so that the forklift drivers do their jobs quicker. So it drives productivity as a result of that. They don't look at him anymore as just a supplier of and let's have him do this and that. So it's important to think of your your account management strategy. If you selling to consumers, that's a lot more difficult, because we all know that consumers are volatile. We tend mad about a brand. You're probably not loyal. We tend to shop around. That's our nature. So it's a bit more difficult. So as a supplier of goods or services to consumers, your first impression really counts. It's everything really. You want to offer to provide a service or goods and go above and beyond. To be seen as a supplier of choice for the future. So you should personalize their experience, make their customer journey pain-free as well within the business, surprise them with what I call the cherry on the cake, things that they don't expect. We are in February now, but if you sold anything at Christmas time, just a card in the parcel makes a little bit of a difference. A voucher for the next order, or a bit more support that people didn't expect, or being available on demand. So think about all of this as well, and think about your ethos and ethics as well as a business. I've got a client that makes textile products. His packaging is recyclable and even reusable. So the products, if they're no longer in use, can be shipped back to him as a supplier. So your environmental credentials could be quite strong, and that makes a difference between choosing you or someone else. That's being customer centric, really. So I would say have a look at how you maintain the relationship with your clients. Is it productive? Do you have more than one contact in the business? That's quite important as well. Multiply the number of contacts in a business. What's the customer experience? Is it personalized? Do you actually get the referrals? If you don't, well, question how you work with that client. And if you are a B2C selling online, then develop an e-commerce strategy We've got a digital innovation team that can help with that. Another point you made is, so you ask, should a business be focusing on its existing clients or seeking new clients?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say both, but start with your existing clients. It's a lot easier to get existing clients to buy more from you than it is to secure new clients. We all know that. So put the efforts into that. I'll give you an example. I'm working with a multi-million pound business in the construction trade. And we identified, they came to us with that challenge that they got a contract worth about 4 million that is not going to be renewed in the next 12 months. So I tasks them to, before Christmas, I tasks them to do a bit of an exercise to look at their existing client base, value of those clients to the business, the type of services they were offering, to identify if there's anything they could sell more of or cross-sell. We also identified, and also which ones were what I call the dogs, the ones draining the resources. And that was before Christmas. I saw them again mid-January, and within that time, they'd spoken to all of their existing clients and lapsed clients.
Sorry to interrupt, Isabelle. I think we may
ended up with 40.
I think we may have lost you, Isabelle, for a moment there. Apologies. I think you're.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're back now. Thank you, Isabelle.
Okay, I don't know at what point you lost me. Okay, so I was talking about this example. After 2 weeks, I saw them this client again in January, and they'd spoken to their existing clients and lapsed clients, and then they ended up with 14 new potential contracts in pipeline. To that they'd already secured that was worth around 1 million already, and that was just by doing a month of work. So that's the kind of things that you want to do, looking at your existing clients. So yeah, do this type of
Thanks, Isabelle.
exercise. Look at your existing database. So focus on existing clients.
Thanks, Isabelle.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to another question now, Isabelle, only because I think we have got a bit of a shaky line, but obviously Isabelle is available to anyone after this call. So anything you may have missed, we can catch up later. But I'm gonna come to you next, Malcolm, if you don't mind. So you had mentioned that navigating international markets, seeking new markets abroad can be daunting for a business. And I mentioned obviously the collaboration between yourselves, the Chamber, and the Growth Hub, really to ensure that that customer journey is as straightforward as possible. What services do the Department of Business and Trade offer in terms of supporting companies' export ambition? And maybe you could talk me through the steps that a business needs to take if they are considering exploring new markets.
Absolutely. As you say, we've got this collaboration on a place-based strategy. And as you say, navigating through all the business support that's out there is really tricky. So it's my job, it's Isabelle's job, it's Francesco's job. It's all our job to try and take that navigation issue away from people, and we know who to talk to. So we've created this place-based strategy, and I'll put the link into the chat when I've finished. So as far as DBT is concerned, there are 8 blocks of support that we provide. I'll mention the third first, which is having an international trade advisor. So if your turnover is over 500,000, you're entitled to get an international trade advisor. But there are other services that we offer. We've got the great.gov.uk website that anybody can go on. Every business should register for that. Lots of information on that. If you've got a question and about trading internationally, we have our export digital inquiry service, and that's available to everybody to look. And I use it myself if I've got a query about opening an office in Argentina, I use that and get the help internally from my colleagues. Similar to what we're doing today, we have our UK Export Academy. We've got a number of workshops that are, if you're just setting out on international trade, or you get into more detail on a particular market or a particular sector, then have a look at our UK Export Academy, and that's available through the great.gov.uk website as well. We also have people dotted around the world in various embassies, high commissions, consulates around the globe. So I can tap into that network and draw that local expertise and help out companies with that. We host a number of events and missions throughout the year. So keep an eye out for those. If you are signed up with DBT, those news feeds will come through on what we're doing and where. We also have 400 UK-wide export champions. So they are business people that have been there, done that, got the T-shirt, got all the scars. We can draw them in. So if a particular company is saying, I want to do business in Saudi Arabia in a certain sector, we can, if we've got the right export champion, we can bring them in to support. And then finally, money is really important. The Growth Hub has their access to finance team, but the DBT also has UK export finance. So if you've got a particular challenge with a particular market and you can't get the right cover for insurance and things like that, talk to me about UK export finance as well. So steps a business should consider. Over the last 10 years, I've been doing the Queen's Award, now King's Award for International Trade, and everybody in their application has to outline what the challenges they face when trading internationally. So there's 7 key areas that I think every business should think about as they're approaching maybe exporting for the first time, or whether it's access to a new market. So do your research, understand the market as detailed as you possibly can. Think about your sales proposition and your pricing. So if you've got the wrong product that nobody wants at the wrong price, then trying to get into a new market internationally, like domestic markets as well, is really challenging. There's key issues like commercial matters and things like getting paid. So things like Francesco's team, they can support with things like letters of irrevocable credit and the like. So make sure that you are going to get paid. It's harder to get money out of overseas clients. And there's other tricks, and I think Ivan will probably talk about those. How do you handle your project? How efficient are you in responding to your customer, responding to queries? So the project handling side of it is really important. Again, back to Francesco and the chamber, the delivery side, the shipping side, what Incoterms are you using? What documentation do you need? That's where a lot of people trip up. Think about the culture and the business behavior in the market as well. That is absolutely crucial. I was trying to sell our product into Germany, and we were really struggling to get traction there. Read a very good book by Erin Mayer called Culture Map, and the Germans love technical stuff. So I started putting wiring diagrams and 3D drawings into my bids, and lo and behold, we were being invited to sort of talk through the tender. So culture and business behavior. And then finally, I think probably what Isabelle was talking about is building trust with your customers and the supply chain. And that does not happen overnight. That takes time. We can't, COVID drew everybody to Zoom, everybody to Teams, but you've got to get on a plane, you've got to go and meet your potential client face to face and, break bread, as they say in America, get to know them and build that relationship with them. So with all those 7 areas in mind, put a business plan together, make sure that you're export ready, and then, execute the plan.
Thanks, Malcolm. The huge wealth of support available there, and hopefully, the audience will tap into some of that after today's webinar. But just sticking with that international theme, and I'm going to come to yourself, Ishan. How important is export to business sales today, and do certain products or services sit better in certain markets?
Look, it's very important, and I see that every day with the companies I work with. I'll take a random company out of the many I work with. They sell gift cards, so it's not the most dramatically amazing, innovative, path-breaking product, but they've grown. They're well above £1 million, and they have been for several years, purely because they went into the US, and they got into their website, Etsy, then they found a wholesaler, and then they started participating in trade shows, and it just grew. And then last year, for some reason, they lost their listing in Etsy. The business in the US was a bit more tricky, but in the meantime, they'd grown Australia, and that's giving them the growth now. So it really is, what we've been talking about. It's additional growth, ability to scale up sales, and also diversify risk. And also, not unimportantly, for a small company, it helps your P&L enormously, because if you're a small company, 200,000 extra of sales is covering your fixed costs, it's covering your operations, it's making a huge difference. So yes, it's very important. Your second question: are there products and services which do better than others? Well, we speak with companies who make products. We speak with companies who do services. We speak with companies who make apps. So I think there's no rule. What I have noticed, and I think this sinks in with what some of the other panel speakers were saying, is that there is a systematic link. If you have a product which is a bit unique, which you can explain what it is very clearly, and which has traction in your own market, the UK market, those are the products or services which tend to do very well. If you don't have a clear product, if you don't have a very good product to start off with, you're going to struggle abroad. So any business can go. It doesn't have to be a very big business. It helps a lot, and it helps a lot if you have a very clear product which is unique. And luckily, in the Manchester area, many companies are like that. I'm delighted to say.
Thanks, Ishan. Thanks for that. And Francesco, I'm going to come to you next. So a business will have determined an overseas market and they have begun their export journey, but we referenced before some of the complexities around documentation, customs regulations, which are obviously different worldwide. So what service does the Chamber offer to make that, I suppose, less complicated, or is it complicated?
So when a business starts exporting, it can feel confusing when it comes to trade internationally, dealing with rules, regulation, paperwork, especially after Brexit. These challenges are normal, but with the right support, there are ways to manage and overcome them eventually. At the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, we've been helping business with international trade for over 230 years. Although we are a membership organization, which means that we prioritize our resources to our member, we offer support and service to both member and non-members, any size and sector. And we understand that international trade can be challenging, particularly for business new to exporting or lacking in house expertise. But also we see experienced exporters when new rules come into place. I'm thinking about the CBAM, for example, or the new GPSR regulation came into place recently. So when it's something new, it's challenging for everyone, not just a new exporter. This is why it's important to have the right support. We have a dedicated helpline. You can reach our international trade department by phone or by email, regardless your membership status, your size, and your sector. We try to help as much as we could, and if it's something that we can provide support, we refer the company to the appropriate organization, such as my colleagues in the panel, DPT, GMCA, and the Grow Company. We have a team of experts that support business through the steps to stay compliant, and we try to remove the roadblocks that can overwhelm business when they start to export. So we help them with the export documentation, like certificate of origin, and here are one which help businesses to qualify for preferential tariff and a smooth customs clearance, but also provide area carnet when those business would like to exhibit overseas, for example. We offer consultancy packages in areas such as Incoterms, tariff code, rules of origin, VAT, and export licenses. And we also carry out audits to help businesses to stay compliant. In these audits, we identify potential issues and weaknesses, and we ensure that everything is done correctly to avoid delays or potential penalties. We also offer training courses to help businesses to learn and manage this process themselves with more confidence. I mentioned when I introduced myself, we are a customs agent. We assist businesses by ensuring their customs declaration are HMRC compliant, ensuring they meet both the UK and international regulation, which helps prevent delays at the border and again, potential penalties. Lastly, we understand that trading internationally, it's an ongoing learning. It's for us as well. So we try to help business to stay up to date with the changing regulation. We understand that, so we provide guides and tools to help businesses to stay on top of the latest changes. We have an international trade hub where we upload all the recordings and the slides of our webinar. There are also step-by-step process for completing certificate of origin and other documentation. So in short, to answer your question, why trading internationally can seem complicated? I'm not gonna lie, it's complicated, especially for new exporter, but we see many experienced exporters struggling as well, especially when new regulation come into place. I think with the right support, business can address the challenges and simplify international trade.
That's brilliant, Francesco. It's great, you know, in our conversation to sort of see the journey almost taking place. Isabelle working with those businesses to get them scale up ready. Ishan opening their minds to new markets. Malcolm being able to open the doors to those new markets, and then Francesco obviously providing all of that complex regulatory support to a business. So we're beginning to see that journey. But what I want to do now is just bring Ivan in, because Ivan, pricing plays a big part in both securing and retaining customers. So with your experience of working with businesses, what role does pricing and pricing strategy play in increasing sales?
Thanks. That's a great question. And it is quite fundamental, right? So if we think about a very simple profit equation, you are selling, let's say you're selling a physical product. So it's price that you sell it for minus the cost, what it takes to produce, times the volume. So price, cost, and volume. And, you know, please do the maths for your own business. But typically, the same percentage improvement in price has a lot more powerful impact on the bottom line compared to improvements in costs and volume. So, you know, all things remaining equal, a 1% price improvement will deliver a lot bigger impact on your bottom line than a 1% improvement in volume or cost cutting. So I work with lots of businesses, even the big ones that sometimes kind of scared of doing something with pricing. They leave it to the sales team. You know, we don't understand it much, so we're just going to leave it to the people who are talking to customers to negotiate the best deals for us. And that very often is a mistake. So there needs to be some pricing guidance on, you know, how you want to be positioned, how you want to be pricing your products. Just to illustrate this point, let me go to an example, and, you know, we could pick any profit margin, but let's say there's a business that makes 15%, 15% gross margin selling a product. And, you know, volume is not great, but they think, okay, let's do a 5% price reduction in order to shore up the volumes. So if you're making 15% gross margin and you're cutting price by only 5%, you need 50% volume increase just to break even, okay? And you are unlikely to get 50%. volume increase from a meager 5% price cut. Equally, when you are considering a price increase, going back to the same business making 15% gross margin, in theory you can lose 40% of your volume and still break even. So the message is, don't just look at volume. Yeah. Look at sustainable volume. Look at profitable volume and profitable sales. Okay. So do the maths before you start chasing volume and customers, because it might be profitable to have a bit less volume at a higher price. Also, when we work with businesses, we often hear we tried to pull the pricing lever and we lost money. We didn't work. Okay, so what mostly they've tried to do is hit everyone with the same price increase. Yeah, and that rarely works. So do not treat everyone the same. You need to understand that the willingness to pay and demand for your product is very different. So if you're selling something in Manchester versus if you're trying to sell it in Italy or Australia or wherever you're exporting, it might be very different environment. Okay, so do not kind of, as Americans would say, spread peanut butter, everyone equal, right? So you need to understand that in a particular segment where your product might be critical, or maybe fewer competitors, you may be seen as a dominant, more kind of better player, you might be able to extract a lot more value without getting churn, compared to some other segments where 2-3% price increase will mean you lose a lot of volume. Okay, so you need to understand that nuance. And also, it's not just about price. You might need to tweak your product or your offering to help you get there. So the analogy which I sometimes use is, your customer might say, "I want a car to get me from A to B." So in that case, if you show up with a Bentley, you will have to discount the Bentley to get the business, whereas someone else might show up with a Golf. Okay, so understand how your product or service both fit within that demand, and don't try to win every volume, and focus on where you should be winning and where your proposition is kind of the best fit.
That's fascinating.
That's
yeah. Thank you, Ivan. And I suppose just linking on to that, obviously pricing strategy is to some extent influenced by the price of materials that businesses are gaining from suppliers. So how important is good negotiation, and what does good negotiation look like with suppliers, Ivan?
Yeah, no, it's another great question, and how you buy is kind of mirror image on how you sell. So there are some negotiation skills which are very similar. You're just on the other side of the table. So I mean, in reality, two big steps, right? Understand your cost base, and then understand how you can buy more efficiently. So what does that actually mean? So understand your cost base. So analyze what are your biggest costs, and then focus on, as management consultants would say, 80-20. Focus on the biggest cost first, because that's where you probably will get the biggest savings. And by costs, I mean not just how much it's costing me to buy X. Understand the total cost of ownership. So that means including logistics, including inventory. So all the components, not just the headline rate of how much it's costing you. Also, it's critical to go through the contracts, terms and conditions, to understand how the price that you think is fixed actually might not be fixed. If your supplier might be increasing price throughout your contract, that's really important to understand. How much stock you really need. You really need to tie up so much of your cash into the reserves if you actually don't need that many. That could really help your cash flow. And also how diversified you are. Are you relying on a single supplier? If you are, then it's a very risky situation to be in, because you depend, your destiny is tied to the decision of that supplier. So understand that kind of that cost base. And then secondly, what can you do about it? Well, go through those costs and ask yourself, when was the last time you checked what the competitors might be offering at what price? When you shop around for household bills, what was the last time you checked how much is broadband or whatever else you're buying with other suppliers? Can you pool your buying with your with us and others in the market? Can you form a bit of a buying group? Or if 3-4 businesses that need similar raw material, can you buy together? So in that case, you get more scale, and hopefully you get better price. And also, this is the critical step, which 90% of businesses don't do. Okay, but the most successful do. Do your homework, do the maths. People show up for a once in 3 year negotiation without prep, or they look at the papers in the morning and say, yeah, okay, so I'm buying for X. Let me try to buy for less. That usually leads to disaster. So do the maths, do the prep, understand your kind of red lines, negotiation position, balance of power, and also you're not just negotiating on price. You might be negotiating on 4 or 5 different things. You might be negotiating on quantity that you want to buy, on payment terms, on stock levels, on credit terms. So there are so many things that you could be negotiating on, not just am I buying this for 100 or for 106 or 94. So do the prep, understand your cost base, and also understand if you can be buying more efficiently.
Thanks, Ivan. And I suppose linking to that, we have had a question in the chat, which I'm going to come to from Angela, but I would encourage the audience, please do drop any questions that you have into the chat. We've still got another 8 minutes to answer those. But I was going to come to Ishan around the need for having a clear plan, understanding your numbers and working to a timeline. And it links in a way to Angela's question in the chat, Ishan. Do you feel many business owners understand their numbers? Angela's experience is that, many have real anxiety around understanding your numbers. Ishan, can I ask for your perspective on that?
Yes, I mean this is a really 5-star question for me. I mean, I think I really respond to Angela's question in many ways. The language of business is numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. I'm very sorry to be as brutal as that. And it's not the end of the world. You can learn your business. You can learn those numbers. So this goes on many levels. First, on a simple P&L level, there are many businesses I work with who've got a business, but they don't understand their P&L. The P&L is something the accountant gives to them at the end of the year. So this isn't right. You have to be able to, in order to manage and run your business, you've got to run and manage your P&L. That means you have to understand every single line entry from top: gross sales, discount, net sales, freight costs, if any, then distribution costs, fixed costs. You've got to understand exactly how your business, to Ivan's point, you want to economize somewhere, you've got to go for the biggest numbers. So I own an e-commerce company. Interesting enough, it's in the cosmetics business. Cost of goods is only 15%. The big cost is fulfillment. That can be 35, 40%. And it soared during COVID. So you've got to understand your P&L to manage it. Going to the next point, which I think Angela was also mentioning, is, yes, I do agree. I don't think the businesses, particularly small and medium businesses, they don't value enough the products and services that they make. The chances are, Ivan, you may disagree with me, but the chances are it's very unlikely, if you're a small and medium-sized business, that you're going to be competing on price. It's highly unlikely that you're the cheapest product in the market. The chances are you've got something a bit unique. And by the way, you're too small to be price competitive anyway. You're not going to cut it. So you'll be better off sticking your price up, in many cases, adding to your gross margin, taking that money and putting into Google Ads or some other advertising. The extra money is much better spent in those cases, in that kind of activities, rather than trying to cut. And I think most businesses get that. Small, medium-sized businesses, I don't come across that many businesses who say, I want to cut and increase my market share.
Yeah, no, and that's a very honest appraisal, Ishan. And actually, it makes me think back to Malcolm's initial point around the need for honesty in the conversations that support providers are having with businesses. Malcolm, can I just maybe draw your thoughts on that need to be very clear and honest in the support that we're providing?
Gosh, I'm not sure I prepared thoughts on that. Yeah, I think as I say, I'm the first person to tell a business. I just really don't think you're ready. But more than happy to sit down with them and develop all the thoughts that Ivan's been talking about, Ishan's been talking about, and documentation, shipping side of things. Just back on the question about pricing, and this is going to sound really, really simplistic when people are talking P&Ls and all this sort of different costs. But when we ran our business selling across the globe, our construction equipment, we knew from our knowledge of the market, we could put a 20% markup, 25% markup on our kind of list price for the US and for the EU. For Australia, we knew that we could put a 50% uplift on our list price. We never had a list price. Nobody saw our list price. I always used to price every job individually because they were unique products. But Australia, they love to negotiate. They love to have a, what can you do to knock us down? So I used to add another 5, 10, 15% onto that 50% uplift because they always like to negotiation. If they knock me back 5, 10%, I was still making far more selling to Australia. But bear in mind, markets like the Middle East, we tried to sell our product in the Middle East. What I'd sell for 100k in the UK, they wanted it for about 75% of that. So just be mindful that not all markets are equal. Yeah. And the other thing, I've mentioned cash flow as well. We always, before we manufactured anything, we insisted on 50% upfront. And that did two things. One was it demonstrated the company had credit worthiness. And also sometimes they say, oh no, we're not doing that. We'll just pay you at the end. And I'd go, that's fine, but we'll have to finance this. And what was going to be 100,000 will now be 120,000 because we're financing it. And very quickly the company will come back and say, oh no, we're not paying the 120. We'll pay you the 100 and we'll give you 50% upfront. So 50% before you start, 30% before you ship, and then 20% after commissioning, and you make sure you still own that product before until that final payment is. It may be difficult to get it back from the Middle East or whatever, but
and actually that feeds into our next webinar in the series around managing and understanding your finance and the importance of that. But I am conscious of the time. The hour has gone very quickly. Conscious too of the question in the chat from Samira. Can we advise how to contact the panelists? I'd maybe encourage the panelists to, I think some have already, but maybe just drop your email address in there. So if people do want to reach out, they can contact you. If we have not had time to answer a question that you were considering, please do either drop us an email, go to the Business Growth Hub website, speak to our chatbot, our AI chatbot's available to you, or just give us a call. We, as I mentioned, have a continued series of webinars that we will be presenting over the next few weeks. Our next focuses on reducing costs on the 20th of February, 9:30 to 10:30. On the 6th of March, we're going to deep dive into finance. On the 20th of March, we'll be talking about business planning. And on the 3rd of April, our focus will be employment and employment law. So hopefully some themes that are relevant to the audience. Can I just take the opportunity to thank our panelists today for taking the time to support this initiative? Can I thank the audience for joining us, both those who are here with us today and those who are watching the recording? And a big thank you to all of the team behind the scenes who have made today possible. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.